Today is August 25th. It's the 238th day of the year, and this is the On This Day podcast. Today is National Banana Split Day, because there's a day for everything. The Banana Split Sundae is created at Tassel Pharmacy in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, by an apprentice pharmacist with a penchant for concocting ice cream delights at the pharmacy's soda fountain, a fella named David Evans Strickler. The sundae he creates consists of a split banana, of course, with 3 scoops of ice cream in the middle of the banana, vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry ice creams. He adds some pineapple and strawberry toppings, and chocolate sauce on top of that, sprinkles on some chopped nuts, sprays on a healthy helping of whipped cream, and tops it off with a maraschino cherry. Back in 1904, when Strickler makes the first banana split at Tassel's, they charge twice the going rate for a sundae, 10 cents. Strickler works at the Tassel Pharmacy for a number of years before he buys it and renames it Strickler's. It's an inventive name. By a handful of accounts, August 25th, 1904 is the day Strickler first creates and sells the banana split. In my research, I didn't find a lot of support for that claim, but it's a banana split sundae we're talking about here, so let's just go with that. Me personally, I'm not a fan of banana splits. I don't believe in mixing fruit and chocolate. But that's just me. I'm sure someone out there loves banana splits, so have one for me in celebration of National Banana Split Day. And if you're like me and you're not such a fan of banana splits, today is also National Whiskey Sour Day. The whiskey sour, of course, is that delicious drink made with whiskey, sometimes bourbon, but whiskey, with lemon juice and sugar, shaken and served on the rocks, with a garnish of half an orange slice and a maraschino cherry, which goes with anything. Served in a cocktail glass, the whiskey sour can also be made with the addition of a little bit of egg white. Some folks call that a Boston sour. We don't know when the drink is first served, but the first known mention of the whiskey sour is in a January 4th, 1870 article in the Waukesha Plain Dealer newspaper in Wisconsin. The article appears to be a sort of dispatch from a fella named Terence McGrant. Terence is reporting from the White House on his discussions with his cousin, President Ulysses S. Grant, who is known to be quite the whiskey aficionado. As Terence writes it, he visits his cousin Ulysses in his private apartment, where the president is playing billiards with a Methodist who seeks an appointment to a position in Illinois with the power to suppress illicit stills. Terence seems to find the Methodist disagreeable for his ill treatment of Union soldiers during the Civil War just a few years earlier, and he tells his cousin as much, rhetorically asking President Grant if he would appoint a man to office who had murdered a woman with the help of other thieves. Ulysses replies, "To be sure, Terence, don't count more than you can make." Terence McGrant writes, quote, "Then may God have mercy on your soul," says I, taking a drink out of me cousin's glass. "Amen," says the Methodist, as he ordered another whiskey sour. National Whiskey Sour Day is celebrated on this day because why not? So happy National Banana Split Day and National Whiskey Sour Day. Something for everyone. Choose your poison. The John Birch Society is an American anti-communist organization and conservative advocacy group formed in the late 1950s and named in honor of missionary John Birch, who is executed on this day in 1945 by Chinese communist soldiers. John Birch is an American born in British India to Presbyterian missionaries who are stationed in the Himalayas. At an early age, he decides he wants to be a missionary too. He studies Mandarin Chinese, is ordained as a Baptist minister, and is assigned to the city of Hangzhou in China after the Japanese invade China in 1940. And after the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor in 1941, Birch volunteers for the U.S. Army to serve in China. The following spring, 1942, he stumbles upon injured U.S. Army Air Corps pilots who have crashed along the coastline of China. These flyers are the Doolittle Raiders, the airmen who bombed Tokyo in retaliation for Pearl Harbor and crash in China after running out of fuel over the East China Sea. Though not part of Doolittle's original plan, Birch provides assistance to the downed raiders and helps those of them who have not been captured by the Japanese to move safely inland. Jimmy Doolittle recommends him to Colonel Claire Chennault of the famous Flying Tigers, the first American volunteer group of the Chinese Air Force. Birch, being fluent in Chinese, becomes a valuable field intelligence operative for the legendary fighter group. On August 14, 1945, just days after the U.S. drops atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan surrenders, signing the formal surrender documents the following day, August 15, 1945. As part of the agreement, the Japanese are to retain control of occupied territories until control can be handed over to a new Chinese nationalist government. The Chinese communists are not pleased with this arrangement and now consider their American allies to be aligned with their enemy Japan. 10 days after the war officially ends, Birch and 11 Chinese nationalists are stopped by a group of Chinese communist soldiers. They demand Birch hand over his weapon. He refuses. His aide, Lieutenant Tung, tries to intervene, but the communists shoot Tung. Then they forcibly disarm Birch, bind his ankles together, and make him kneel on the ground for execution. John Birch, killed on this day in 1945 by Chinese communist soldiers, is considered the first casualty of the Cold War. He is posthumously awarded the Army Distinguished Service Medal, and more than a decade later, the John Birch Society is named in his honor. Though in his autobiography, Jimmy Doolittle notes that he believes Birch would not have approved of his name being used for the organization. There are 128 days left in the year. On This Day is produced by me, Dave Schultz. Thank you very much for listening. Born on this day in 1530, Ivan the Terrible, Tsar of all the Russias. He is a competent diplomat and a patron of the arts who ushers Russia out of the medieval age and lays the foundation for the country's modern political structure. Ivan is also a mentally unstable, murderous brute who suffers from acute paranoia, physically assaults his pregnant daughter-in-law, and beats his own son to death with a scepter. So if you're still listening, he was called Ivan the Terrible after all. Talk to you tomorrow.